Hello, thank you for joining. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're ready for a new skill today. I know I've been teaching you a little about writing so far. However, today we're going to have a bit of a change. We're going to look at note-taking skills. Today's topic is called How to Take Notes Like a Professional. Okay, the fact that professional has been cut down to pro, that is one thing that will help you with note taking. Don't say the full word. Just saying part of it, you will remember what it means when you see it again. Before we get into it, just a little about me. I studied linguistics and education at university. And after that, I've been working as an ESL teacher for 8 years in Australia, in Thailand, and now I'm in Colombia teaching. I'm working with TOEFL, as you can probably guess, and I'm working with all the different sections. So that's why I can switch from teaching about writing to today talking about listening. And just something extra about me, I love Harry Potter. I actually was just wearing Harry Potter t-shirt and I thought maybe it's not the most professional, so I changed. So today we're going to have these goals. This is what you want to know by the end of this video. You want to know whether or not it's necessary to take notes at all. You should be able to differentiate. That means to know the difference between content words and function words. Don't look them up, I'll explain it. And you're going to focus on these content words, on consonants, on symbols, as you are taking notes. That will all make sense by the end of this class, I promise. If this class is not enough for you, you want some more tips, some more attention to ask me your questions, then we still have this deal on. You can get a half-an-hour lesson with me and we can talk about whatever you want. I will tell you everything I can and I'll send you some stuff afterwards. This is proof of that. Christina had a trial class with me a few weeks ago and she was so happy. You can see here, she received a lot of information. I sent her an email with some links for her to work on. And I answered all of her questions. She hadn't done the TOEFL yet, so she wanted to know what it was all about and she wanted to know what she needed to do according to her skills, her background, and what scores she was looking for. So I helped her with that, and then she offered, she said, let me write you a testimonial. Everyone needs to know how helpful this is, which was so nice of her. Now let's get into it. A lot of students tell me this, these things. They say that they can't take notes and listen at the same time. And that's usually because as they're taking notes, they're missing the next part of the listening. I know this is true. And I mean, it's happened for me in my second languages. As I've been working on my Spanish, I've had issues with maybe trying to write one word and it's a difficult one, and then I haven't heard what the sentence was after that. And yeah, also back when I used to study French in high school, we did so much listening and it took a really long time for me to be able to take the notes and listen at the same time. But I just want to tell you that eventually for both, I got it. It wasn't easy, but it's possible. Think of it like learning to type. The first time you're doing it, you're trying to look at all of the letters there. You're trying to think about how to spell something and think about what you're saying next. It takes so long. If you're trying to write down, type what someone is saying to you, it's very difficult. But the more that you type, the more that your fingers learn where those letters are, you don't actually have to be thinking of that or looking for those letters. it just comes out automatically. You listen and it comes out. It is multitasking. It is something that our brains are capable of. Even if it takes a long time to be able to do it, it will happen. I promise. If I can manage it, then you can too. So keep practicing it until you are able to do both at the same time. Eventually, you should be writing and you're not focusing too much on what you're actually writing. You're just doing it as a secondary thing because the main focus is what you're listening to. And the writing is some words that you have heard in the former sentences. You're not actually making any new sentence as you're writing. You're just copying a few things there, and it is going to be something you can check a bit later and remind yourself of what was there. It doesn't need to be an actual piece of writing. They're just notes, so eventually you'll be able to do them without thinking about them too much, without it taking too much of your brain activity away from the listening. Just like with typing. Eventually, you're able to type those sentences. You're not thinking about where those letters are. Your fingers are just finding them. The next complaint that I often hear is, I don't know what I should write down in my notes. And that's what we're going to look at today. First of all, I'm going to show you the big question. Do I have to take notes in the TOEFL exam? It's a tricky question. Think about it. At the end of this video, I will tell you my answer. Now, let's imagine it's yes. The 5 rules for note-taking. The first one is that we're going to write down the content words. When I say content words, I mean nouns, verbs, adjectives. If you're not sure what they are, then let's go through it. Nouns are things. They are objects. They are places. They are people. Here are some examples. Cat, table, school. Adjectives are words that describe these nouns that we just spoke about. You can say it's a lazy cat. It's a wooden table. It's a big school. Okay, they're modifying those words there. Adverbs, you can see it looks like adjective there. Adverb is also modifying something, and you might have guessed it's modifying the verb, not the noun. We haven't looked at verbs yet. Verbs are the action words, things you are doing, how you are moving, how things are happening, that type of stuff. So jump, shake, listen are examples of verbs there. And how does someone jump? They jump quickly. They shake suddenly. Don't think you can say listen timely. You would say listen closely is what we want to be doing. So they are the content words. You might think, oh, well, okay, of course I'm going to write them, but why are you telling me that? Well, I'm telling you that because I don't want you to write these words. These are the function words. They're called function because they help get everything together. They're excellent at making things grammatically perfect, flow, be correct English. However, note-taking, we don't need them. In, at, from, by, they're all prepositions. You are going to be fine without having them in your notes because just those content words, you're going to remember how they are connected. Articles, definitely not going to be helping you with the meaning there. Auxiliary verbs, okay, I talked about verbs before. Those were the main verbs, the verbs that carry the meaning. Here we have some auxiliary. Another word for that is helping. Helping verbs, they're just there for the grammar. You know, when we do present perfect, we need to say, I have been. The have there doesn't tell you much. The been is the main verb, and that's telling you what is actually going on, that I visited somewhere, that I went somewhere. That one is important. The have is just helping so that it becomes that tense. We don't need that in our notes. Okay, so be, have, and do are usually the helping verbs. Modals are another one that we can leave out. Conjunctions, pronouns, and demonstratives. So all of this stuff here in the writing section, maybe you're struggling to remember all of these. Well, you can be happy when it's note-taking because we don't need them there. Just think about you're writing a quick note for your friend and you just have to do it in 2 seconds and then you need to run out the door. You're going to say, what you want to say is, could you please put the food in the fridge when it's cooled down? There's a lot of words there. So we can cut it. We can say, put food fridge. Okay, your friend will get it. Trust me. That will be enough for them to, when they get home, look at the note and do it. Now, let's look at an example. This is what's in the listening, and underneath we have only the content words. Since the, in the, have, our, of, and its, all of that are the words we've been talking about, not really telling us anything. We're not going to write them. We're going to just write these content words, okay? 1980s meteorite finds Antarctica, so we know, okay? Where were the meteorites? In Antarctica. Dramatically increased knowledge, space materials. Okay, I know that this led to more knowledge in space materials. I still have the meaning there. When I check my notes later, I'm going to know what's happening without these function words. This, of course, just the first step. You might be thinking, oh, that's still so much to write. I can't fit that in. Don't worry, we're cutting even further. Keep watching. The next step here is to write down consonants. If you're not sure what a consonant is, consonants are these letters, the ones that actually have your mouth, your tongue, your teeth touching each other at some point. Okay, what are not consonants are the vowels. They're the more open. A, E, O, U. Your mouth is open there, the air is flowing through. They're the vowels. They, of course, very important for spelling. We need them. But when we're writing, they're not going to tell us so much about the word that the consonants do. The consonants there are what differentiate the words. You can see there's only a few vowels, not many options. With the consonants, so many. Looking at the word without the vowels, you're going to have enough information to still be able to work out what that word is. Let's look at an example. We can see that meteorite has so many vowels in there. That would take you a while to write that. Finds, we just take out the one. It's almost the same. Antarctic is a little bit problematic because the A is a big part of it. So with these rules, they're not 100% for writing things down. There are some exceptions. If there's a word like Antarctic, you're going to want to write the A so you can still remember what that is. So think of first letters, we still need those. Also for increased here. So let's look at it done a bit better, using a bit of common sense to work out what would be best. Now we have a few extra vowels to help out. We've got some E's in here, so it looks a bit closer to meteorite. We've got the A for Antarctic. We've put in a Y there and an I here. That is getting us a bit closer that we can easily recognize these. Now this is going to take a while. You're so used to writing the words with the correct spelling that as you're writing this way, you're not going to feel so comfortable. You're going to be fighting your habits, but it's worth it. Once you start doing it, it will save you time. A lot of note-taking thing does take a bit of practice, a bit of effort to make it faster, to make it natural. So it's not going to happen overnight. Keep working on it until you get better. Next rule, we have core symbols. These are so important for note-taking. I'm sure you already use some. You must. Here are some of them. We can see we've got the plus symbol that's going to be used not just for one thing. You're not going to only use it for plus. You could use it for a benefit, a positive, for connecting words. You can say also this as well, this, all these things together. It's really useful. This symbol you can use to talk about something that's not happening. Talk about a negative side. That's going to really be clear for you. Question mark, depends. Maybe you've written down something and you're thinking, was I right about that? You put the question mark to show yourself that you're not sure. Or maybe the lecturer themselves was not sure, so you're going to put that in there. Arrows. These are most important out of this list. You need to use arrows for all the sort of connecting things that you have there. And you can also use them to show things rising and falling, increasing, decreasing. It's also going to be used for something positive, but I love using them for connecting ideas. Okay, especially this sideways one. I think I use this in every single response I'm listening, in every single passage I'm listening to, sorry. And the up and down, yeah, I use a lot of down ones. I tend to write things across like this. So let's say there are 3 subtopics. I'm going to have the overarching topic here, and I'm going to have arrows or just lines going down into those 3. So I can clearly see that they are separate, that those 3 are different, and that they all come from this top one there. Equals is a good one that I use, and you can use the opposite when things are not equal to. So all of those things there, please use them. It would be good for you to go back and look at some of your old notes and see what you can replace with some of these symbols. Try to find something and go, oh, I don't need to write all of that. That could just be a plus. It's going to save you so much time. Look here. Look how short we've got it with these symbols. First, we've cut down from 1980s. Well, we know it's not likely to be any other 80s. And we've got an arrow here that this happened in the 80s. Instead of that the meteorites were found, or that they were finds of meteorites, we've got an arrow here to say they appeared. They were found. They're in Antarctica. And of course, instead of dramatically increased, we're going to have an arrow. I would do a bigger arrow because obviously handwriting, you can play around a bit more. To show it's a dramatic increase, we can have a very big arrow that's saving 2 words with one little symbol. It's amazing. So please use these as much as you can. On to the 4th rule. We don't want to have more than 7 words per line. This might be difficult for some of you. You want to write all the things, you don't know what's going to be important, so you want all of them there. Please try to limit it. And maybe something is very important, you can split it into 2 lines. That is going to really help you, because as you're checking your notes, having it in shorter lines, but more of them, it's easier to flick through with your eyes to know what's going on. I mean, even play around with where your writing is. In terms of, like I said, with me using the arrows and lines, I have things around the page, depending on what I need for the passage. Last thing we have is indent. I'm not sure if you know what an indent is when we move something across. It's not right on the edge of the page. It's moved in. This can show that it is underneath. It's connected to the writing above it. Okay, so when you see it, it'll make sense. You see here, we've decided that we want to split these two. We're going to put this second one underneath, and you see it's not here. This is the indent, and it is instead over there. So we know that these two bits of information are connected. The meteorites, as there are more meteorites, there is more knowledge about space materials. I know that they are together. Oof, that's a lot, right? It seems a bit overwhelming. Just try one thing at a time. Start with cutting out those function words. Once you're used to that, then get to cutting down on those vowels. Keep moving through until you have everything together. I'm going to show you my latest. This I did today as I was helping a student, and you can see I still have to improve a bit to follow all of these rules. So let's look, can we find any function words that need to be cut out? Yes. 4, we don't need. 2, we don't need. Another 2. These things I need to remember, I need to cut them. But for the most of it, I do have the content words. I've cut a lot of function words. Okay, let's think about vowels. I have not cut so many vowels, but I have been writing them very, very small, sometimes hardly at all. Sometimes they're just a squiggle. So you'll notice here, that's actions. I do not see an I or an O there. It's not really necessary. And in a lot of other words as well, that's an A, that's an A. I've just gotten really lazy with them because they're not really helping me to remember which word that is. Eventually, I'm going to stop writing them. It's just taking me a bit of time there. In terms of symbols, you can see my arrows, as I always love. I put one there and then I took it out because I thought, wait, not sure they're related that way. Here's another arrow. That's pretty much all I've used. I've also put some lines to separate some information. So we gave you the core symbols. That's not all that you can do. You can play around with some things. You can see I also circled some things because I think that they're going to be important. I think they're important because they're showing the difference between certain things or similarities between things, which is a lot of the time what comes up in these questions. They want to see that you understood what was being explained, what was being taught in the lecture. So the fact that you know the difference and you know what things are similar is a good sign that you understand that. Okay, have I written more than 7 words per line? I have. I think I need to cut back down with cutting those function words. I'm going to get better with that. So stimulus will tell us to go back. So I'm going to need to change that. Stimulus tell us back. Okay, stimulus tell us, go back, or stimulus tell, because as we don't need stimulus tell, go back. And then I'm going to have lesson 7 for these lines. You can see sometimes I got more, but that's because I am trying to keep all of the stuff about endotherms above this line and all the things about ectotherms below that line. What I really should have done is had 2 different parts in the line in the middle. That would have probably helped me a bit there, but I wasn't sure what was going to happen with that lecture until I heard it. So looking back, I have a better idea. And the last one about indenting. I have, instead of indenting, I've put them across here to connect them to endotherms. But I have tried to do it up here. So this is related to this one. I've indented it and I've used an arrow to connect it there. So yeah, still a few things for me to work on. You can see it's a work in progress. Bit by bit, you will get better. Now to answer your question, do I have to take notes? The answer is yes and no. Everyone is different. Yes, most people will need to take notes. This TOEFL test is about studying at university. They want to see that you're ready, that you're going to be able to survive. You're going to be able to go to class, learn in class, keep your notes for reviewing the class, and so many other things that are needed for studying in an English-speaking university. So that's why they make these listening passages around 4 or 5 minutes long. If they didn't care about you having note-taking skills, then they would just make it shorter. And then you could just remember things. Or they might let you look at the questions first, like they do in other tests. But they don't. They give you the listening first, then they want you to show what you learned from it. And the best way to be able to check what you listened to, what you learned, is to have those notes there that you can look down at and you can see what happened and you can remind yourself to help you with those questions. Also, taking notes can really help you to focus. I once tried with the TOEFL listening. I thought, I'm not going to take notes. I'm just going to listen. And I found myself about halfway through looking and getting a bit distracted by things happening around me. I guess the topic wasn't so interesting, so I switched off a little bit. After that, I realized I need to take notes every time, even if I don't use them. I take the notes, so I focus the whole time. I really catch all of the different parts. And then when I see the questions, I'm ready for them. Another thing is that handwriting for some people can really help them to memorize things or to remember things. And I'm one of those people, so that's why I write things. I've even written down what I wanted to say for this video because I knew that writing it down, even though I'm not looking at the notes, just doing it in handwriting, not typing, has really made it be in my head and ready to go. I feel more confident about doing this video. Okay, now we'll go onto the no side. We say no because some people do not need to take notes. For some of you out there, you understand and you focus so well that you don't need to take those notes. You finish listening and you think about it, you think, oh, I've got it all there, I'm fine. You go through those questions, you can answer them. It's possible to not take notes in the TOEFL because most of those questions are about the main ideas, are about the differences, are about you understanding what happened. They're not about the tiny little details. Okay, the fact that it happened in the 1980s, it's not usually going to be a huge deal. They're not going to say, which year did this start and have the 4 different years in there. They want to see, not that you can pick up on the tiny little details, but that you get the big ideas. So that's why note-taking is not necessarily needed. However, for most people, it will be very helpful. So start small, like it says here, start small. Maybe just have a few minutes, not 4 or 5, but just 1 or 2. And try with that. Just take notes as long as you can. And then Listen a second time, try to take some more notes. It's going to slowly build. You're going to feel better and better the more that you do it. Like I said at the start about multitasking and getting those habits, getting it happening a little bit less consciously. I did the typing thing there, but for here it will be writing. So that will also help it happen a little less consciously. Now I want to help you with a bit of practice. When I was trying to practice my listening skills, I listened and watched a lot of YouTube. So this is the #1 site that I recommend to my students to help them with the listening and of course the speaking and writing as well. It's really great because they're usually short videos, so they're similar to the size that will be in the TOEFL. And they're about a lot of different interesting topics. Sometimes I've found the same topics here that are in TOEFL questions or TOEFL sections. A few from the speaking are definitely in here. I watched this one yesterday. Really cool, I understand. I actually, instead of taking notes for this, I try to do something else at the same time to build that multitasking. So maybe I'm painting my nails or I'm cooking and I'm also listening. Now, the first few times I tried to do that with Spanish, it was a failure. But I played the same video a few times and second and third time I understood a lot more. So I recommend that you do that. TED Ed is a great one, but also good for you to listen to things you like. I told you guys earlier that I love Harry Potter. So this is a great channel for learning about Harry Potter. I just watched a video before I did this actually, all about Dumbledore's big plan. So if you're interested in that, can help you with your listening practice. Try to take a few notes as you're doing it. So you are working on those skills, working on multitasking. That is about all for today. I hope now you know. So think about the descriptions I gave for whether it's necessary for you to take notes. Are you someone who remembers things well, or are you going to need to check those notes? Are you someone who focuses very well, or taking notes is going to help you to concentrate? And are you someone who remembers things better after you have written them? So think about yourself. Which category do you fall into? Next, we have differentiate between content and function words. I hope you got that. Go back and watch again if you didn't. And you're going to focus on these content words, on the consonants and the symbols as you take your notes. Last of all, just a reminder, if you want more information about the listening section or any other section, please book in and we'll talk about it. Any of the difficulties you're having, I'll let you know what I recommend for your situation. Thanks for joining.